All right. Hi, everybody. David Fogel back with you, CEO of the Symphonina Foundation, back with another Symphonina Foundation podcast. I'm joined today by Steve Horowitz, founder of the Game Audio Institute. Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing well. 2026 is off to a good start. And as we were talking just before we got going here, it's off to a good start for you too. And in fact, today's a very important day for you at the Game Audio Institute. I'm going to turn the floor over to you and let you tell us all about what's going on there.
Well, we are about to launch our new professional development program today, and we're going to have our first orientation with our initial cohort of students, and I'm super looking forward to it.
What does it take to be a student in this new program? What are you looking for in the students, and what are they looking for from you?
Absolutely. So, we're definitely 100% centered on music and sound for games in all its forms and all its glory. So that could be any type of music. So if you're a composer who's interested in game music, maybe you write orchestral scores, that's great. If you write techno scores, that's cool. If you're really into opera, that's also great. If you're a sound designer, so a lot of composers actually don't know they're sound designers. Certainly that was the case for me over my career. I started out, I tell people I'm a composer with a big C and a sound designer with a little S, right?
Okay.
Meaning that if you put me in the room with a video game or a score, I'm going to want to write the music, right?
Yep.
But I also enjoy doing sound design as well. So that's part of it. And also all the other things that go into game audio, which is implementation and using these cool middleware game engines like Fmod and Wise. And these are special tools that are made for composers that are working and sound designers that are working in game world. So if you're interested in any of that, many of our students have already been through programs, right? They've already been through college programs where they did a 4-year degree. Maybe they got one class in game music, one class in game sound, and they're much more interested in it. They're thinking about it for a career. Then we're the place you want to go. We've got a whole slate of classes. These are the same classes that I developed when I was at the SF Conservatory of Music as their executive director, now at San Francisco State University. So you can take them with us and you can do them asynchronously, or you can do them in person. We've got all different types of ways that things can happen. So
what's the best way to follow up with you? We'll ask this, about you personally.
Just simply go to Game Audio Institute. Just simply go to gameaudioinstitute.com. And all the information is right there before your eyes.
Okay. How long a program is it? If somebody was interested in getting in, what should they expect?
Well, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked me that. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a roundabout answer on that. So what I've learned from being at private schools and being at public schools is that a lot of students aren't really well served by a cookie cutter model of education. These days, education tends to think of students as cost centers, and they express those cost centers in units. Oh, yes, I know you want to take this class, but first you have to take these 3 classes before that because we need the units.
Sure.
We don't do that. So students come to us. We do a very thorough intake with them. We talk to them about what they're hoping to do, what they've done before. And we put together a custom program, which is a combination of asynchronous courses and collabs, right? And hands-on experience. And we have a way of doing that and a model for doing that with our students. At the very end, we also have career development. So they get to meet with and spend time with private lessons and private instructors, as well as mentors who are going to help them as they move out into the industry with their reels, with their demo reels, with their, anything that they want to do. So I like to say that our program sits somewhere in between $75,000 to go to a private school and $20 to learn on YouTube. That's where we sit. We want to make sure we build community and that people have interaction, but at the same time, I guess that's a long way to say you go at your own pace, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And you get out of it what you put into it then, I guess.
And you get out of it what you put into it. So some students may, the soonest they're going to get done if they take courses with us is probably over 8 weeks, right?
Hmm.
That would be a very adventurous, very go-getter person, right?
Okay.
Who absorbs information at a very high level and probably isn't doing very much of anything else in their life. And we have some students that have signed up for 1 year or 2 year programs.
Got it. Okay. All right. And I guess when people are coming to you for game design, game music instruction, things like that, are they also thinking that that's going to translate to the film world, or are they viewing it as two separate things?
It's really two separate things. And over the course of my career, I've really come to understand that there's a lot of parallels and there are a lot of crossovers between game music and film music, right? We're talking about music for visual media, right?
Right.
And you get a lot of programs that define themselves as visual media. So a lot of the basics are the same. Being able to look at a screen, hear music, see, figure out what should be there, what shouldn't be there. A team sport, working with a director versus and an editor versus working with a team of designers, right? But that's pretty much where the buck stops. I like to talk about game audio in terms of it's like an octopus. It's got a lot more arms than film music does. Film music is maybe more like a shark.
Okay.
It's got some fins, right? But an octopus has a lot of arms. So there's a lot more technical information in the game world than you need in the film world. Now, keep in mind that film has had over 100 years of development, right? And standardized. It's great. You take your film, you get it from your director, you put it into your DAW or your notation program, you write, you compose, you go to a scoring stage. This is all wonderful stuff. With games, every game is different. What engine is it built in? How is it, function? So we think about some different things, and we have to have a different level of knowledge as we go into working in music and sound for games.
And a question out of ignorance: when you have a game that's on different platforms, does the music stay the same across the platforms? Does it vary by platform?
Again, another great question. No, absolutely not. So, when you do let's say a AAA game, big game you work on for a couple of years, I mean, that game is going to be a very different experience when you play it on an Xbox One or on your PlayStation, right, than it is if you play it on your phone. And
Yeah.
we have to
Okay.
think about those things. It's almost like you remember back in, or even now for when you do mixes, right? When you do mixes in the studio, it's like, yeah, it sounds great in the studio. How's it going to sound in your car? How's it
Right.
going to sound on your small stereo system, right? Same situation is as we port music and sound over to different platforms, there's all sorts of things that need to be considered.
Yeah. Okay. You founded the Game Audio Institute. What was the year?
2011.
2011. So almost 15 years now later. What do you
Yeah.
think are the biggest changes and maybe the surprises that you've experienced in that decade and a half?
Yeah, some of the biggest changes are it used to be okay back in the 90s. So I started, I went to the California Institute of the Arts and was really into the weird music and contemporary classical stuff. I actually started out as a rock guitarist and moved to bass. So I'm a bass player
Okay.
and have been for many years. But, over the course of my career in games, which started in the early 90s, at first it was like, hey, make good sounding stuff. And then give it to somebody who will put it into the game, make it work in the game, and adapt it to the game. We call that throwing it over the fence. You make the music, you throw it over the fence, somebody catches it, and they put it in, and you're like, oh, this sounds great. Play it for your friends. Cut to about 10 years later, and this we were talking about. I had mentioned it earlier. These programs that had sprung up, Fmod, Wise. These are middleware programs that made it easier for composers and sound designers to do their own implementation and integration into the game. Right? They worked along with game engines, right?
Okay. Yep.
And
Yep.
you could do some of these things, you can make randomized sounds and all these different things that it would take a programmer to do. So that's 10 years later that, composers were expected to kind of understand and use those programs as they got into the industry. Cut to 10 years later after that, which gets us to where we are pretty much now. And folks are really expected to understand the game engines themselves, right?
Mm.
Unity, Unreal, and be able to do a little bit of work inside of those engines. Because again, game design is a team sport. So if you're somebody who can write awesome music and also can do some implementation inside of an engine, you're more valuable than others, and you work better as a team. So those are some of the changes that have happened over the years. Is as technology has developed, there's just more stuff that we need to know and more stuff that we need to learn.
Interesting. Yeah. For someone in the business, does it help for them to be in a particular area like Los Angeles or some other place, or can they make a successful career from anywhere?
Yeah. So, 10, 15 years ago, I would have said absolutely. LA was a hub. Well, San Francisco was actually the hub in the 90s, right? I
Makes
mean,
sense.
this is
Electronic
where you
arts and
wanted to
wherever
be.
else, right? Yep.
Yeah, that merger of Silicon Valley and Hollywood, Sillywood, right?
Yeah.
That took place. But LA now is the whole West Coast actually of the United States is great for game development these days. So you talk about LA, Seattle, even up to Vancouver, San Francisco, of course, where I am. Um, New York, there's a certain amount of development. San Antonio in Texas, and Austin. There's a lot of stuff. There's stuff happening internationally. So whereas I used to tell students, and tell people who wanted to get into the industry, it's good for you to be in this area or this location. That's become less of a factor actually these days. Used to be there was like one trade show. You go to the game developers conference, you meet people. Now there's trade shows all over the world. There's MagFest, there's game developers conference, there's the AES show. These happen all over the world. There's so many of them. It's crazy. You could spend your life traveling around, hanging out in conference centers. And I think that's made it a little more easy along with COVID and along with Zoom and along with our video, lifestyle that we're living these days to really, be able to do it from anywhere. I think making the connections are important in person still. But now you can do that at conferences, you can do that at meetups, you can do that in all sorts of different ways. So less so than it used to be.
Okay, but all those professional connections are what's going to make you successful, essentially professionally, presuming that you have the skill to do it. So
It's the entertainment business.
you've been in the entertainment business a long time. I had in my notes that you were the film scorer for Super Size Me, which takes me back quite a ways. What was let's go back there for a second. How'd you get I don't know, was it a break to get into that, or how'd you get that job?
That was, yeah, absolutely. So I was living in New York. I was the audio director in-house at Nickelodeon Digital at that time in the MTV building.
Uh-huh.
This is one of those stories. Morgan was a friend of my cousin, and my cousin worked at Sony, and Morgan was the barker on the Sony truck. They had a truck that they would drive around to beach volleyball tournaments and other things, and Morgan was the barker on that, and he would bring people in to see the stuff. So Dave told me one day, you got to meet my friend Morgan. This is when we left San Francisco. My wife and I, we moved to the Netherlands for 4 years,
Oh, okay.
and then back to New York City. This is in the 2000s. That's when I met Morgan, and Dave was like, you got to meet him. At that time, he had a script in his back pocket and an idea for doing a show that would spin off from online to television. And that was a TV show called I Bet You Will that you might have heard about. It was on MTV. We did about 40 episodes of that show with live music, first online, and then we did about 120 episodes of that for MTV, with all sorts of different music in it. It was awesome. Everything from surf music to classical music and all of it recorded, live or mostly live.
Mm-hmm.
And then Morgan had this idea for the film Super Size Me. So I was like, yeah, this sounds great. He was living in a hammock in his office, not doing, so well financially at the time, and took it out to Sundance, and it blew up and exploded. I went out to Sundance with it, and I've been fortunate enough to be part of interesting things in the music business, and know some people who have done some things in the music business, some B-listers and A-listers. But this was the first time with Super Size Me I got a chance to see this spring up and sprout up from the beginning. which was incredible to go from like, hey, this unknown film to it being purchased and bought and then
Yeah.
becoming famous worldwide. So that was super interesting and super cool. I'm really proud of being a part of it.
Yeah. What doors did that open for you?
Interesting. So, when Super Size Me went to the Academy Awards, I flew out and everybody wanted to talk to me. I talked to probably 10 different agencies in LA and I drove around like a crazy person and did all these meetings. And then, we went to the awards ceremony and everything. And after it lost, and I say lost in quotation marks because it really won. I mean, in the documentary category, the Academy in LA wants to choose a film that has a very strong social message. So Born into Brothels won that year, which was
Okay.
quite an important film. And I guess they felt that Super Size Me had really already won since it was sort of an international sensation. Um, After that, I got an agent and nothing came of it. Absolutely
Interesting.
zero zilch, nothing. I went back to doing my world in games and music and concert music and all that stuff and really didn't turn into anything specific. Over the years, I've been contacted for different things and people who were interested in Supersize Me or doing projects that were similar or, along those lines. But yeah, I mean, I feel, yeah, I can't say it led from, it's one of those things. It wasn't like, hey, I did this thing and then it led to, of course, I did have delusions of grandeur because I thought to myself, well, who else has, this was my first feature film, right?
Right.
That had gone to LA. I'm like, who else did that in New York? I'm like, well, Bernard Herrmann did that, right?
Mm.
He did the score for Citizen Kane, and he was in New York at CBS, and then he went to LA and he won the Academy Award. It's like, I could do that. No, that didn't happen.
Yeah. It's a good story. It's a good story. How much film work do you do or aspire to do now?
Less than I used to do. So, I used to do when I was in circles with Morgan and with some other folks and follow up, and I did a lot more. I'm in touch with the folks out here at SF Film. They run the San Francisco International Film Festival. They also do a docu festival. They're a wonderful organization. They're an incubator for filmmakers as well. They provide them with resources and grant money and editing space and things like that. So I'm still involved on the periphery, but I've been so involved in game world and game music and also my own music and concert music as well that, film projects are few and far between. I have to really, really be committed to the director and really like it to sign up these days.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You mentioned your own music project. I think you had a recent release with symphonic work and chamber work. Let's hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So, I've been writing music forever. If people go to my website, they'll see 37 different albums
Yeah.
of music, that they can sink their teeth into. This most recent release is interesting in that over the years, I had done many pieces that were completely virtual, but I hadn't released them. Usually, like for example, the last couple of pieces I worked on for trumpet and string quartet, right? Those live musicians and the whole way, or with my ensemble. But these were pieces. One was a woodwind quartet that never had been recorded.
Hmm.
I had done virtual arrangement of it,
Yeah.
right? Using samples and
Yeah. Mock up.
using, yeah, a little bit more than a mock-up actually.
Okay.
And so over the years, I've been, a little bit like, I don't think I want to release these. And there was a piece for string orchestra, another piece for solo piano. I just decided that they were sounding, over the years, they've been sounding better to me. Did a little bit more mastering, did a little bit more mixing, and I released them as an album in December.
Yeah. What was the title of the album?
Yeah, Simulacra Hyper Real. And again, if you go to my website, you'll see it. And
Oh, we'll have to go find that. I suppose you're going to be submitting that for Grammy consideration coming up in the
I will.
later on in this year. Right now, we're
Yep.
still waiting for the 2025 season
Absolutely.
to finish.
It'll be interesting to see
One
what
thing
they,
at a time.
it'll be interesting to see what they do with it, right? Because with all the jabber controversy that's going on with AI these days and
Hmm.
things not having live musicians on them, I don't know how it will or won't be accepted.
All right, we will wait. And I do have a question for you. You're teaching at San Francisco State University. How much of your time do you spend there, and what advice do you give to students who are coming through, whether they're looking to do film or game or whatever, as composers, let's say with a focus on symphonic music?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, I'm at SF State. I'm teaching any number of classes, could be 1 to 3 classes, and doing a lot of private composition lessons.
Okay.
We also have a composition seminar where we bring in special guests and talk about different topics. And, one of the things that we do at SF State that I really appreciate, and Ben Saby, who's the director of the department now, and also has been head of composition for a long time, and we've worked together for quite a long time now, is that we don't silo students, right? So, if you go to certain programs, which will remain nameless, you have the concert composers over here, and maybe you have music for games or music for film over here, and those departments don't really talk to each other. So from the beginning at San Francisco State, we really agreed on not siloing our students. So if you're interested in concert music, that's awesome. If you're interested in opera, that's great. If you're really into techno and only working inside your computer, if you're interested in rock or pop music, great. We just put everybody together, because when I stand in front of a class of 20 students, right, I might ask them, I'll say, well, who here would love to write a string quartet? 90% of them raise their hand.
Right.
Who'd like to write a score for a film? 90% of them raise their hand. Who wants to do a game score? 90% of them raise their hand. These artificial delineations that we have in our minds, because we're old fellows now, old people now, of high art and low art, and that for this generation really doesn't exist. They see all the different ways that music can be used, and we just try to encourage that.
That's great. That's great. Well, Steve, if people want to get in touch with you, it's been a great conversation, Steve. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
They can just first of all, they can go to my website, just stevehorowitzmusic.com. I encourage everybody to go to the gameaudioinstitute.com as well. And other than that, you can look for my stuff. Look, whatever service you use, Spotify, Apple Music, all of that, my music is out there, and you can find it just under my name, Stephen Horowitz. Yeah.
And they can learn more about your pro development program too?
Yep, absolutely. They can learn about that. They can learn about anything. Maybe they won't learn anything. I don't know.
I doubt that very much. I doubt that very much. Steve, it's been a pleasure. I want to thank you so much for spending your time with us today. And as we listen to more of your great music on the way out here, if there's anything we can do to be of help to you at the Symphonina Foundation, just let me know. Please keep me posted on your updates and releases and other things that your students are doing too. I'd be more than happy to help put the spotlight on them as well.
Oh, thank you, David. And thank you. Really appreciate spending some time with you today.